All right, so plan for this video is we're just going to go through them in order. We are going to try and do parts just A and B on this video. And how would you go like that? Okay, so parts A and B from scratch. Let's see here. I'm not really sure why they made this part A because it's one of the more complicated. We're going to use the subtractive method where like we did for part C, where you start with a chunk that's the maximum size in all three directions, all three dimensions, and then cut away what we don't want. Some important things to note about this one particularly is it actually uses half a grid mark as the distance from here to here. And on the other way, I don't know why it's unnecessarily complex for our purposes here, but it's what we're working with, and that's fine. And again, our units are inches, so it would be 1.5 inch. And there's that. Okay, so let's go ahead and inside of our folder that you already have called green sheet letters, we're going to create a document, a part file. Let's call it part A. And I am going to do full screen so that I can use all the pixels that I have access to, which I guess is, well, I know it's F11. We'll go full screen. And so let's start by, like I said, making the block that is our maximum dimension in all three dimensions. And so the rectangle we'll start with on the front face is 5 tall and 8 wide. So we'll start with the rectangle that's 5 tall and 8 wide and extrude it 5 deep. Okay, so let's start a new sketch. And this word sketch is still red because we haven't selected where we want to sketch. And the first rectangle we make is going to be on the face, on the front origin plane. And so we'll click there. The word sketch turns black, and now we know we're sketching. At this point, it's a good idea to turn off the visibility of the origin planes so that you're not confused about what you're drawing on. And since we're doing a two-dimensional sketch, you should be looking at it from a two-dimensional view. So you can click on the face front, and our first step is get a regular rectangle. And for these simple shapes, it doesn't matter if you're just sort of floating anywhere, but generally a good idea to snap to something. In this case, we'll snap to the very center of everything. Click once, move your cursor, click again. And now we need to dimension it, which is this tool right here with the arrows. Or you can just key the letter D is fine also. And we said height is going to be 5. So it's click once on the line, move over, click again. And we'll set that to 5, number 5, or numeral 5, and then enter. And let's zoom to fit. And scroll wheel. I suppose does the home key work? What are the keyboard shortcuts for view? There's got to be a keyboard for home. Either way, same thing for width. Okay, remember these dimension lines aren't actually there. I mean, I suppose technically none of it's there, but they're not part of the shape. You just need to get them out of the way so that you're not accidentally clicking on them later. And our width is 8. And we are going to finish the sketch with green check mark. And let's look at it from a corner, like right here on the view cube. And we want to create material. We're going to extrude, use the extrude tool. And we want to extrude. Okay, the word is still red. We haven't selected what we want to extrude. Let's choose the rectangle that we drew. And let's extrude it our total depth, which is 5. And there you go, 5, and we'll hit enter. And give me a second. Let me see if I can there's a software I want to use so you can see where I'm actually clicking. And for the video, you're just going to fast forward through this part. And let's see if it works. Do we have it going? Yeah, I think it's working. Okay, and we'll go back to sharing. Okay, so the width is 8 and the height is 5. So you can do right click and edit, and you should be able to see, oh no, we're extruding. So this, you can see how the sketch is now hidden because it got consumed by the extrusion. And you can see here on what highlights right there, it says extrusion 1 from sketch 1. And so there's that. If we do right click edit on sketch 1, you'll see you can go back and change the dimensions, which is the key here. Is you can go back and edit your sketches and it will update everything that's dependent on that. Now we don't need to edit it because we nailed it the first time. Okay, so we have a block that is 5 wide, 5 tall, 8 wide, and 5 deep. Now we're going to cut away what we don't want, which we need to look at the green sheet in order to do that. Okay, so we actually are going to do this in 3 separate steps. I don't know if you could do it in fewer because the cuts are different directions. First cutaway we're going to make is we're going to turn it into an L by cutting a rectangle here. And I'm going to turn off the visibility of the origin point. Okay, and so we're going to cut out a rectangle here so that we're only left with the L that we want. And so there's a couple ways. Clearly we want to start our rectangle up on the top right corner, but there's a couple ways you can do it. You can dimension the size of this rectangle, even though it's the size we're cutting away, which in this case is going to be 3 tall and 6 wide. So you'd have your width dimension there. The other way you could dimension it is by making the rectangle and then dimensioning the distance remaining, which is from there to there, and that distance is 2. Okay, we talked about this last time, the 3-click dimensioning. Instead of clicking on the line, go over and clicking again, you go over, click on the line, go over to where you want to dimension to, click on that line, and then click in between to set the dimension. And we'll do the same thing for down here, which in both cases is 2. So let's go to this. We need a new sketch. We'll click on sketch. We haven't chosen where to sketch. We want to sketch on the front face, so we'll click on the front face. And we're sketching 2-dimensionally, so let's look at it straight on. We want another rectangle that starts at the top right corner, so we'll do a regular click there and go down here and set it. And like I said before, we'll dimension, and we're going to dimension the distance from this line to this line. So our first click is going to be here. Can you write your name on the top? Just scratch out and write it at the bottom there. Okay, so our first, get the dimension tool. Our first click is going to be on this line. Our second click is going to be on this line. And our third click is going to be in between. And we're going to set that to 2. And you can see how what we're actually dimensioning is the distance there. We're not dimensioning the size of the line. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing here. You can tell it's not fully constrained because this line is still blue. And if you can move it, it's not constrained. I have constrained it left to right. If I grab this line, it's not going to move because I put that dimension in there. But I need to do the other dimension, which is here to here. set that to 2. Okay, we're done with our sketch. It's fully constrained. We'll click on the green check mark and we'll look at it from a corner. And because of the colors, it's not super clear what's going on, but we have 2 areas here. We have the rectangle we drew and everything else. We're going to go to extrude. We're going to choose, excuse me, we're going to choose the rectangle we drew, but instead of extruding and creating material, we're going to click on remove, and it knows to cut back, and we want to cut all the way back, which is, will merge with all work, no, which is a depth of 5, or really anything bigger than 5 will be fine. It will cut all the way back. So we're left with that. Next step is, let's cut away this part right here, which this part right here is just a rectangle that's 1 by 3, 1 tall and 3 wide. But the key here is this is one of the first rectangles we made that doesn't snap to a corner. So we have a rectangle that's 1 by 3, but we also have to tell it how far away from one of the edges it is, which in this case is 1 away from the edge. So let's go ahead and start a sketch on this face. And since we're sketching 2-dimensionally, we're going to look at it straight on from that face, which in this case is the right face. And we need a rectangle that we're not snapping it to the corner, but we are snapping it to the top edge. So first click there, second click down here somewhere, roughly the correct size. And we know we want it to be 1 tall and 3 wide. Hold on a second. Let's go through this. Okay, so we have it 1 tall and 3 wide, but you can see that it's still blue, and that's because we haven't said where we want this rectangle to be, and we want it to be 1 inch from the edge of the rectangle to be 1 inch from the side. There we go, fully constrained. We're done with the sketch. Let's look at it from a 3-dimensional view and do extrude, and we want to extrude the rectangle we just made. But again, we don't want to add material, we want to remove material. And we need to remove at least 2 inches so that it goes all the way through. And hold on, I wonder if we can do second end position. So we click there, remove second end position. Is that going to let me do a face? I don't know if this is any easier. No, that's not what we want. That's actually more complex. So we'll go here, switch to remove, and any distance that is 2 or greater, we'll cut it all the way. Okay, and next one is, and I've just decided we're only going to do part A on this recording because it's going a little slow and I want to get people moving. The last cutaway is this part right here, which we're going to draw a rectangle on the top. Well, it's not the top, but it's the face that is that you can see from the top. We could put a sketch right here on the side and cut extrude it that way. It doesn't matter which one, but we are going to do it by making a rectangle on the top, which is going to be right here. And we are going to do, instead of dimensioning the size of the rectangle, excuse me, the size of the rectangle, which is 4 this way and 2 this way, we're going to do the remainder like we did before, the 3-click dimensioning, which first click, well, let's just go ahead and, well, so the distance from, if this is the rectangle, if this is, come on, pen, you got this. If this is our rectangle, The distance from this edge of the rectangle to the edge of everything is 1.5. Same thing here, it's 1.5 this way, and it's 2 this way. And if we do those 3 dimensions, it will be fully constrained because we'll start with it snap to this edge, and that will lock it in place. So let's go ahead and we'll start a new sketch. Choose this face. We're looking at it 2-dimensional, so let's look at it 2-dimensionally. We need a rectangle that starts somewhere on this edge. Don't snap it to the center point. That may constrain it to the point where you can't change it. Just need to be somewhere on this edge, not the exact center and not the corner. And we'll make it roughly the right size. And we're going to dimension. And like I said, the distance from with the dimension tool, first click on this line, second click on this line, third click in between. This is 1.5. And I'm going to cancel, hit escape to get rid of the dimension tool, just so I have more room to click and I can move the blue lines around. And we'll go dimension, the distance from this line to the top, well, technically it's the back, is 1.5. And that leaves us with a single blue line. And if you're ever not sure which dimension, where you need to put a dimension, you can grab the blue line, see which way it still moves, and that's what you need to constrain. You need to keep, remember, dimensioning is not just about changing the size, it's about locking in the size, what's called constraining. And we are going to constrain and dimension the distance from this line to this edge, and that is 2. You see all the lines are now black, and you can see the shape we've made. And we're done with the sketch. Let's go ahead and extrude, choose our rectangle, switch it to remove, and any number that is 2 or greater will cut all the way through, and hit OK. And there you go, part A. Let me know if you have any questions.